Hello, welcome to my channel. Today we're looking into the disappearance of Diane Sue Gilchrist, and she was only 14 years old, 4'10", 100 pounds, and there's a photo of the man that allegedly murdered her. He had a van, it says. She was last seen in Vancouver, Washington, May 29th, 1974. She left her residence, 1800 block Franklin Street, got into a van driven by an unidentified man, never been heard from again. Warren Leslie Forrest, a suspected serial killer, is a person of interest in Diane's disappearance and in the 1971 disappearance of 16-year-old Jamie Grissom. A photo of him is posted with a case summary. He's thought to have raped and killed at least 6 women in the Vancouver area. He was convicted of murdering one 19-year-old woman in 1978 and received a life sentence. He's still incarcerated and was denied parole in 2017. This is what this says here. It says online that some of his suspected victims, were Jamie Rochelle Grissom, age 16, December 7th, 1971. She was never found. Barbara Ann Derry, age 18, killed February 11th, 1972, or vanished then. She was found March 19th, 1972. She had been stabbed to death. Diane Sue Gilchrist, age 14th, May 29th, 1974. She's never been found. Gloria Nadine Knutson, age 19. She went missing May 31st, 1974. Her body was found May 9th, 1978. Carol Louise Valenzuela, age 18. She went missing August 2nd, 1974, and was found a few months later, October 12th, 1974. Martha Marie Morrison, age 17, September 1974. I don't see the date specifically. And her body was also found October 12th, 1974. And he had some surviving victims, which would be Norma Countryman, age 15, from July 17th, 1974, and Daria Wightman, age 20, from October 1st, 1974. So, yeah. So this says the bodies of 3 other women have been recovered in rural Clark County and are thought to possibly be his victims. He's never been charged in connection with their cases, according to this, or in Diane or Jamie's disappearances. However, Diane's case remains unsolved. So we'll look some more into this. One of the other victims, Jamie Rochelle Grissom, or alleged victim, she was age 16. She went missing December 7th, 1971. She was about 5'4" to 5'5" and weighed 125 pounds. It talks about what she was wearing. Doesn't give the sizes. I wish it gave sizes, because if they find a Jane Doe, it's going to have sizes listed, and that to me would be helpful. So she left her residency, her home on 58th Street in Vancouver in the morning, December 7th, 1971, and went to Fort Vancouver High School, about 2 miles from her home. It is established that she did make it to school. She arrived. She only had 2 classes that day, and she did attend the classes. She told her foster mother she would walk home from school and would arrive around 1 or 1:30 p.m., but she never showed up. She's never been heard from again. Her purse, her ID, and her possessions that were on her, in her purse or whatever, they were found in May 1972, 5 months after her disappearance, in a wooded area alongside a road in the Dole Valley area of northern Clark County, northeast of Vancouver. Authorities initially believed she'd ran away from home, and as a result, she wasn't even declared a missing person until January 1972. Her loved ones never thought she left of her own will. She and her sister had been wards of the state since they were toddlers. Their father was in prison, and they had been taken from their mother. She was a good student, got along well with her foster mother, and was close to her sister in 1971. She was also a talented artist and writer and a member of the 4-H club. She had a savings account at the time of her disappearance, but the account has not been used since she went missing. Police eventually decided Jamie had probably not run away. She is now believed to be the first victim of suspected serial killer Warren Leslie Forrest, who is thought to have raped and killed at least 6 young women in the Vancouver area. In 1978, he was convicted of murdering 19-year-old Krista K. Blake and received a life sentence. He is a person of interest in the 1974 disappearance of 14-year-old Diane Gilchrist. He attended the same high school Jamie had, albeit several years before she did, and was popular and a good student. It's possible him and Jamie knew each other. A photo of him is posted in this case summary. Forrest is still incarcerated. It says, according to this, the bodies of 3 other women have been recovered. 2 of them were located within a mile of Jamie's possessions, where her possessions were found. 19-year-old Carol Platt, Venezuelan, 17-year-old Martha Marie Morrison. Martha was not identified until 2015, however. In 2017, authorities discovered Martha's DNA on a dart gun, which Forrest admitted he'd used to attack another woman. In 2010, they announced they planned to charge him with the murder in her case. It says he's never been charged with Jamie or Diane's case at the time that I'm reading this, or in the other murder he's suspected of. It's worthy noting that most of his other presumed victims were hitchhikers, and Jamie does not fit that profile, although she had the same physical characteristics as the other women. Jamie remains missing, and I don't know if they found her remains or if she's a Jane Doe, but they issued a death certificate for her, And then this says that murder of Martha Morrison. She was born in 1956 and missing or died September 1974. She was a 17-year-old American girl who was murdered in 1974, whose remains went unidentified for over 40 years after their discovery. She was a resident of Portland, Oregon, disappeared under mysterious circumstances September 1974. On October 12, 1974, human remains of 2 women were found in Dole Valley near Vancouver, Washington. One was immediately identified as Carol Pratt, Venezuela, and the other individual was unable to be identified at the time. In 2015, the remains were identified by means of DNA profiling as those of Morrison. After Morrison's remains were identified, law enforcement encouraged the public to submit tips as the murder was still unsolved. In August 2017, a blood stain on a pistol owned by a longtime suspect, Warren Leslie Forrest, was matched to Morrison through DNA testing. Prior to Forrest's identification as a suspect, serial killer Ted Bundy had been considered a person of interest in Morrison and Venezuela's murder. Forrest was charged with Morrison's murder in 2020. Morris reportedly grew up in foster care while living in Lane County, Oregon, near Eugene. Her sister Reba recalls that their mother was deaf and that Martha was skilled in sign language. She attended Roosevelt High School in Portland and the Corvallis Farm School in Corvallis. Subsequently, she went to Arizona to participate in the Job Corps program. She had a history of drug use and of running away from homes of both her biological and foster families and the Corvallis Farm School as well. She was last seen leaving her apartment, which she and a man rented. The couple reportedly quarreled, and Martha subsequently went missing. So automatically you're going to think he did it, because that's, would be your prime suspect right off the bat. Well, your person of interest. Shortly before her disappearance on September 1st, 1974, Morrison had visited her family in Eugene with a man. After the remains were discovered October 12, 1974, the bones of the victims were examined nationwide in hopes of identifying them. One of the victims was quickly identified via dental records as 18-year-old Carol Pratt, Venezuela, but those of the second victim were unknown. Venezuela had been reported missing on August 4th by her husband after she failed to return home after hitchhiking to Vancouver on August 2nd. Investigators hoped that her ID would perhaps increase the likelihood of identification for the then unidentified Morrison. They intended to question Venezuela's husband following her identification, yet he was recovering from an aspirin overdose at the time. He was arrested but eventually released after passing a polygraph test October 25th. all examinations were unsuccessful in identifying the second victim. So you can read up on this. So because it's lengthy, and I'll pause it here and I'll scroll down, and you can pause the video to read it because I don't want to read it all. And there's some references which will have more information. You can find this online. And then I want you to see a photo of what he used to look like. I mean, now he doesn't look like, a good guy, but back then he looked like somebody who would be trustworthy. He looked like somebody that you would never suspect would hurt you, that if he offered you a ride, he looked like you would be a nice person. So you can't really tell by looking at somebody. And maybe somebody out there who has somebody else that went missing, maybe they'll recognize him when they see his photo or remember him. But I don't know. And then this is on Facebook, and it says, convicted murder and suspected serial killer Warren Forrest is on trial for his second known murder. She was Jane Doe, over 40 years, found in 1974, identified only in 2015 as missing 17-year-old Martha Marie Morrison. And this was put out in 2020. Another body was found a few feet from her. And it says victims in the photo is 19-year-old Krista K. Blake, murdered July 1974, body found 1976, Forrest charged with a murder 1979. 18-year-old Carol Platt, Venezuela, murdered in August 1974, body found near Martha Morrison. 17-year-old Martha Marie Morrison, murdered in September 1974. Jane Doe till 2015. Well, this has good information. 15-year-old Norma Countryman, abducted 1974, survived, not on the photo lineup. Gloria Nadine Knutson, missing since May 1974, found in 1978. 18-year-old Barbara Ann Derry, body found 1972. 14-year-old Diane Gilchrist, missing since 1974, body never found. 16-year-old Jamie Grissim, disappeared December 7, 1971. Her ID found in the Dole Valley where all the other bodies were found. She is still missing. So I'm guessing that's where her body will be found because that's where her ID is, and the other bodies were there. So, convicted murder was in Clark County Country Room on Monday, facing new charges that accuse him of killing a teenage girl in the 1970s. Warren Forrest, age 70, is currently serving a life sentence in Washington State Penitentiary for murdering Vancouver teenager Krista Blake in 1974. So this talks more about that. Yeah, this says he looks like he couldn't hurt a fly, but that's what made him so dangerous, they said. So you can pause this and read this as well if you like. You can rewind it if you need to, because I just wanted you to see the different people, because I'd never heard of him. And he's supposed to be a serial killer, and he could have killed other people, and yet we've never even heard of him. So, well, you may have, but I haven't. So, it said colleagues and supervisors of Forrest who worked for Clark County Parks Department reported the man had explored Dole Valley many times and was interested in property there. According to the court documents, the Dole Valley crime scene was 8 miles from Tukes Mountain, where Blake's body was found, but police did not find out about Morrison's disappearance until January 2010, when her half-brother reported her missing to Eugene, Oregon Police Department. And that's the thing, if you have family that went missing, make sure they've been reported missing. Make sure, because you may think they were reported missing, or people know they were missing, and they may not be listed as missing. So anyway, she was reported as a free spirit who was known to hitchhike. She hadn't been heard from since 1974, when she evidently moved from Phoenix to Portland, according to court records. So if he hadn't reported her missing, they probably never would have been able to identify her remains. So that's really sad that it took so long. But so this is Diane Sue Gilchrist, and she's missing, and they believe that's what happened to her. So hopefully they find her remains, and her family is able to have closure. If you have any information Whether you think it's important or you're not sure, maybe you feel it might just be hearsay, you don't know if it's true, it doesn't matter. Give it to the authorities. Email them, call them, let them have the information, let them know. You don't know if it's true or accurate, but you heard it through the grapevine. And that way they have the information. So thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great day. Don't forget to pray for their loved ones and families. Bye-bye.